It rain never say of blessings. All the wings of glory, glory, His glory. I will Welcome everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. This is my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Today I am focusing again on my director clip notes that I didn't get a chance to really focus on these episodes because I pivot towards my music, which is a part of my whole blueprint to get me to funding my dream, which is my movie based on my book, Mitsrayim, a memoir of a past life in ancient Egypt. That's where I'm here in Atlanta. And so the music itself is another expansion of my brand, MOLIAE, which MOLIAE came about when I started into the industry here, and unfortunately it led to do the play first. But when I wrote my book, it was always about the film because that's how the images came back of the memories, and that's how I wrote it, seeing these flashes and seeing these scenes and was going through it. So I definitely have other podcasts to go deep into that. This podcast show is about that book that I wrote that I love so much, and my goal is to make it a feature film. With that said, I decided over the years to do other things to continue to nurture that dream, that soul there, and for it to blossom and manifest. So here I am in 2026. This is my 9th season. And after the last 3 years focusing on my music, I did complete. It is available. It's called When Love Was Divine. You can get that pretty much anywhere. But I do ask you, as one of the independent creators here on this timeline with the DTC movement, direct to consumer, we thrive when our fans, our followers, purchase directly to us. We use those funds to reinvest in our dream, in our purpose, in the ecosystem of what is now the new reality. And so the DTC movement is very important and passionate to me because that gives me my freedom to express, my freedom to be me, and to be able to live my journey according to God, which is my purpose. So before I get further into it, let me say a quick prayer. In the name of the Lord, thank you so much for your blessing today that I'm able to do my podcast show. Thank you so much for bringing me another day to be able to focus and share these stories that can uplift, encourage, and motivate others. In your glorious name, I give all praise. Amen. All right, let's get to this. So today I'm going to be focusing on my directed clip notes. As I mentioned, I did not get a chance to continue my directed clip notes that I normally would do like during the year, go back and replay and kind of like have my tea, because when I'm creating, particularly these years, I was just been creating content, and now the directed clip notes was my opportunity to kind of sit back and relax and enjoy the benefit of hearing the stories that I created and really just enjoy the whole experience as a creator, what we create, and go from there. So that's why I started the directed clip notes. Plus, I love filming. I want to definitely go back and do filming, as I mentioned at the beginning of this segment. And this is part of also helping those that are coming into my story of MOLIAE short stories that's based on my Egypt book. The timeline of my podcast show is before my book. So I'm bringing in new characters that I love, that I'm channeling and everything. It's a wonderful experience, and to really enrich what my book that I was spiritually, to write that book. And so this directed clip notes help me to break down those scenes, all right? It's like you do in film. And that's why I call it directed clip notes, and this is the episode. So we're doing 2 episodes. The first episode is going to be episode 67, King Rule over Tiamat secures the Astar. This was season 7. That year was 2023 to 2024. And of course, for me to catch up, but also for me just to kind of go back and remember the times when I started my first year podcasting. So it's going to be a bonus. I'm going to talk about a season 1, episode 25. That was year 2017 and to 2018. It was called A Disagreement Amongst the Orions. And that was a clip snippet where at that time I was asking anybody if they want to get the rest of the story, that can help me to reinvest and to get towards the funding of my film. And I will read the story that I wrote, and then I will cut off, and then you will have to go. I think I was on Patreon then. And so we're going to go ahead and get to both of these. So let's go ahead and start. And before I do that, I do like to kind of go over my stats. Again, this is the history of my show, the history of my writing, and my creativity. And it's kind of interesting to kind of look back to see when I created and where it is now at this time. So we start with the first episode, which was the finale. It was episode 67. Again, this is King's rule over Tiamat secures the Astar. As of this moment of time of this recording of doing this show today, it has been 1,342 downloads. Can I get an amen? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. All praise. Lord, kept it going. Appreciate y'all to download it. The next episode, that is just a bonus that I'm doing today, and that's a Disagreement Amongst the Orions. That was episode 25, my first year. And just a caveat to that, I had the 2 podcast shows, this one and my Surviving Your Journey to a Success. I did that first, really try to help out the community and the collective of my tweets on Twitter, and it just kind of took off and I wanted to expand, give people more content. So I started the Surviving Your Journey to a Success first. And then like my spiritual team, you need to do something for yourself, and plus your dream. And that's when I started, okay, I'm going to do 2 podcast shows. Okay, that's how you got to be committed. And evidently I am, okay? And that's what I did, the short stories. So I had 2 shows that I started that pretty much that same year. I did that first, Surviving Your Journey to a Success. We're talking about history, y'all. And then I started right thereafter the short stories during that window. So with this particular episode 25, my first year, and I was with Spreaker then. So when I left Spreaker about maybe 3 years into it, 3 or 4 years, and then I went over to Podbeam, and now I got both my shows on Podbeam at this particular recording of time. So those numbers didn't cross over. That's the only thing I can think of. I know they say they're supposed to because of the tracking, but I know I had more by the time I was still doing it around that, like 3 or 4 years in. So anyhow, right now it's showing 639. So it's still good. I feel like it should be a little bit more. But nonetheless, we're going to keep going. So that's that. So let's get into the review. This is not going to be long. Looking at the time here, and I am going to play. I've decided that I might play the first clip of the episode 67 finale. And with that, let's go into what's that episode about. So let me set the background of it. So this particular episode, the finale, which is always in May, that's when I end my show. King's rule over Tiamat secures the Astar. Right, correct. These, I don't know, you want to take notes, but to keep up, what have you. The Astar has not been defined what it is. However, the Orions, these are beings from another star constellation. This star constellation is mentioned in scripture. So, nonetheless, recalling this particular thing that they want, Mitsrayim was the Mecca of international galactical place that other beings and other what have you arrived. They go there, and whoever was the king, basically, in a sense, ruled the planet. That's why they find so many tunnels and this and that, and the knowledge is so deep. It has a very rich history, okay? So with that, the Astar is connected to that history. You just don't know what it is. However, in Mitsrayim, King Mahlon is overseeing it, is protecting it. And the Orions know it and want it. So they have this agenda to get it. So in this particular episode, King Mahlon just arrived back from Pleiadian's star cancellation. He is with the Ecko, which also is one of the fathers. One of them are the fathers of young Danielle. Danielle will be the husband of King Mahlon's daughter, Princess Amelia, but hasn't been born yet. So they're all there in the royal throne, and King Mahlon is talking, saying his speech to the tribal leaders because of the war. What is this war and battle? But that happens in my episode 1 here, my podcast show, before the time of Princess Amelia. So King Mahlon, fast forward in this episode, the finale, is basically speaking to them that he has risen even higher in rank with more power to find who started the war, the battle, against Mitsrayim, who is siding with the Orions that they know is after something. He didn't go in detail, but it's the Astar that is housed in, get this y'all, in the pyramids somewhere, okay? Which is connected to my pyramid collection. That's going to be another episode, the PMTR. At any rate, King Mahlon is asking the tribal leaders, who's going to stand with Mitsrayim? Who's going to stand with me? I need to know now and get it on record. They all said yes. They ain't crazy. They all said yes. There's some that are. You know what I mean? That's another episode. But nonetheless, they said yes. So this is a moment where we are looking at royalty, King Mahlon. We are looking at authority, King Mahlon. We are looking at the position of King Mahlon is about to set something up in the regard of getting and sustaining his authority over the Astar. We call it the Sudan, which is Africa, over his position of right to manage and lead, and some tribal leaders are against that. The previous episode deal with ruling, understanding, and learning about King Mahlon's speech that he's going to find who's responsible for that war. He's going to put it to the point that they will be accountable. Okay, and so this episode is very raw in that everyone is there listening in the throne of Egypt. King Mahlon speaking to this collective of tribal leaders that signed up to say they was going over here, but they want to go ahead and follow King Mahlon. So it's going to be something leading up more after this. But yes, that's where we at with that. And then we have these Princess Hannah is there. You know, the grandfather Tahib is there. So everybody's there listening to that. So I'm going to play the episode. I think I'm going to go ahead and play the episode because he showed prime leadership in his authority of saying that speech now in Egypt, what we call Egypt, Mitsrayim, Tiamat. Okay, so that's that. And let's go ahead and do that clip now. Let's play that. Opening scene. As he steps to the throne of King Mahlon, rise ever so higher than a plateau of the tribal leaders that stood before him, and the Akuni brothers, Enlil and Nagal, along with young Daniel, sitting to his father's Nagal right side, looked on. It was Queen Hagar on her throne behind where King Mahlon stood, speaking to the tribal leaders, as young Princess Hannah looked onward to the many tribal leaders listening to her father speak other matters before them. The young Princess Hannah was also with her grandmother, Queen Hagar Mana, and grandfather Tahib. They were sitting nearby, observing the speech by King Mahlon, but as well watchful of young Princess Hannah, as always ready to not sit down so still in matters like this. As the proceeding about to start, we see young Daniel sitting on a mini throne, leaning over to his father Najal to ask of this before him. Young Daniel said, "Which of this will be the future of the tribal leaders within the following of King Mahlon?" Najal responded, "It would be in the best interest, and you will hear the master leader of King Mahlon to collate the tribal leaders to follow him, as that is the way of kings rule on Tiamat, of their influence rings forth power." The young Daniel's eyes widened with wonder and awe, and he turned to look straight ahead as he sat, now eager to hear King Mahlon's response to the tribal leaders by saying, "I am much eager to be one of the kings of Tiamat within the domain of Kodesh in the future time of my inheritance, father." Najal looked over to his son and smiled before returning to hear what King Mahlon was about to say. With over 100 to 200 tribal leaders in attendance in the throne room, now staring and listening to King Mahlon speak to his travels, two Pleiadians, and now he'll return to his rulership of ancient Egypt, Mitsrayim. For they was much awaited for his speech, to which will be the next step for movement in the direction of the overall realignment to the king's rule on Tiamat. We see King Mahlon's crown rise as solid gold sparkling in the ever so spew as it nestled silent to the whim of the kingo waves behind them. He spoke with authority. King Mahlon said, "In these times of movement to the next realm of our existence, I see the collective effort for our brotherhood to stay on the path that leads to our all victory. It's not of one as the king rule of Tiamat and Mitsrayim, but of each of you to honor not my only leadership on this planet therein, but to communicate in a way that serves all our people within the territories outlined by those of Akuni of Simna, who stands with Mitsrayim of the allegiance to vote for the order of realignment of who's on the Congenial Member Council." "I," said the rest of the tribal members, as they nodded in agreement. I. Meanwhile, we are in Zimbabwe, at King Mahlon Palace, as he is sitting down having dinner, while the Kingo rays just finished nestling in the after-esprit rays, gave it to the next moment of time of the evening hours. King Mahlon, that will be the stepfather of Dama, is about to take another bit of his food, wearing a charu robe of colors of maroon emerald green, exposing his jewelry and shiny round crown on top of his woolly hair. He wanted to travel back to Mitsrayim, but had promised to have dinner with one he had long admired as he paused before eating his next bite and looked down to the other end of his raw wooden table. It was Anna Inataskala from Palladians, and the mother of young Danielle, and will be of another son named Damar. The King Mahlon knew about the situation, but still loved her ever since first seeing her on his trip to Palladians, and vowed to woo her to be his. She was known that she revealed a way a few esprit times ago to be with possible child, but no other word was heard. As she was wearing a long olive yellow light dress, exposing her left shoulder in jewelry with long Nubian curls, pulled to exposing a huge gemstone hair quartet. Her skin glistened as in the Kingo rays that lightly mellowed to the sound of the music played by King Mahlon musician in the far end of the dining room. As the open floor-length windows of 8 exposed provided a cool breeze from the nearby waterway to the palace, when suddenly she placed down her fork and spoke to his amazement. She said, "I have made my decision of your conquest to my heart, to yours." King Mahlon slowly sipped his wine before placing it back down. She continued, "I will decide to be of yours, and my son will be yours to lead and move onward within the divinity he was granted by one of the Okuni. Are you of acceptance of that, King Mahlon?" He smiled and lifted his hands in acceptance as repositioned his wine to celebrate, and then clapped his hands where several female attendants with trays of food and drinks entered. King Mahlon said, "I am honored of your acceptance to my proposal, and I will be the most enduring father to your child and you." He then went to where she was sitting and kneeled down to present her a very large diamond ring encrusted with emerald that were mined from Zimbabwe mines, and placed it in her hand. She gasped at the size and beauty and was speechless of how always the love King Mahlon showed her, that she only wished she knew that beforehand, as her heart was so entwined with Nadal of moments that she shared with Inky that led to her to be carrying a future child of an Okuni will now be raised in Zimbabwe. She managed to nod and still said she accepted the moment to be the wife of one of the king's rule of Tiamat, King Mahlon. End scene. All right. And now the next one, I'm not going to play a clip on the second one. I just have the link in there for you. But this one deals with season 1. This is Nontu. This is in the beginning of my season 1. Nontu is one of the 3 Orions that came about. Now, in my book, I talk about the Orions. They played a role with King Dama. So, and you know what? I just realized something. Before I get into this, I need to finish talking about the episode 67, which is a big one. It wasn't just King Mahlon. Towards the end of that episode, something major happened, the finale. That's when I first time introduced the mother of King Danielle and King Dama. They will grow up to be kings, okay? But before that, she's a mother. And both of them are fathers of the two Anunnaki. You have Enki and then you have Nagar. And so anyhow, she's in Sabare with King Kohan. King Kohan is the stepfather of King Damar. He always loved her when he first saw her in Pleiades, when he went there, like on trips or what have you, the star constellation. Okay. And he basically proposed to her and she accepted. At this time, she is pregnant, which that would mean that must be Damar, or is it anyhow, she always wanted to marry one of the Anunnakis in Pleiadians. She didn't. It's not that she's subtle. She just accepted that it wasn't meant to be. She's not happy about it, but then she's still going to be a queen, so she'll take it. And that sets it up where that presents where it's going to be more stories about her, how she, was able to capture these two sons of these two powerful galactical type rulers, and that intertwine first meeting King Kohan. And so she does marry him. At this time, she accepts the proposal. That's the big reveal of my finale. I hope you enjoyed that particular clip of my finale, episode 67. And now we're going to pivot towards the bonus season 1, episode 25. And this is where Disagreement Amongst the Orions. So we have Nontu, Ecko, and Lanko. They was designated to come to planet Tiamat, aka Earth, to find the Astar, pretty much. They went to the tribal leaders to have them to go against King Mahlon, and then you have the battle, which, as I mentioned, fast forward in season 7, which the finale I just showed and presented that clip, King Mahlon want to find out all the tribal leaders, anybody that did that. He wants to know and have them accountable. So in this bonus here, Nontu is saying the reason why we should continue and do this and that, I have captured one of the Mitsrayim high rank officials, which is going to be pretty much the general then. He's the father of General Tata that was introduced in my book. And they didn't feel that's enough, When he first was talking about it, but he said, oh, yes, it is. It's the general. But he don't really go and say that, but pretty much he leads up to it. They're thinking that Nontu, okay, yeah, they don't want to give him credit because they don't like him. But it presents how this disagreement amongst them further leads to, if you've been listening before, the finale where the person that sent them there get outed out because the voters of the Council of the Orion voted for Nontu to side with Nontu. Nontu basically feels, I can run this here, the assignment, the agenda. And Ecko, that supposed to be the leader, feels, no, you can't. And then Lanko, they can't stand him, no, you can't. But it seems, as we know now, that Nontu get the ruling. He gets the backing of major players, and it's the person, which is Hani. He's left. He actually left himself, but they was going to remove him, and he left. So that's pretty much in the future. But here is the seeds of leading to the future as my finale. Hani chooses a new path, which is one of my favorite episodes that I did. It really showed my somatic of movie making just through audio. And this episode helps you to understand the root of it. It was a disagreement of how to play out to get the Astar from King Mahlon, and that caused the disruption of their trust already even more, and then it led to where we are now at this particular recording. Nontu rises and defeats Ecko and Lanko. And it's not over between Lanko and Nontu, but nonetheless. So I'm going to leave the link to that so you can be able to listen to that and get into my story, my lore. And all these stories is going to connect my future plan, which is releasing my first short stories of my PMTR NFT short story collection there. So I'm going to be releasing that. I'll give you the announcement when exactly that's going to be. It's going to be soon because the relaunch of it happened February last month during my Power Reading Week on W.B. Du Bois' birthday. All right, so I'm going to wrap that up. Thank you so much for supporting me over the years. I'd appreciate you. Connect with me on social media. Connect with me on MOLIAE.com. Go to my Discord. I have all the characters there, not just my NFTs, but all my short stories. I'm going to start doing live events there on my Discord. I will put that link in the episode of this description. You can also go to MOLIAEworld.com and you'll see join Discord. Click that and you can go ahead and log in and you can find out information on what I'm doing as well as my collection of short stories and my NFTs, my brand, MOLIAE Beauty. Go ahead and help a sister out. I know I got something for you on my luxury essential oils for the kings and queens. And let's see, at MOLIAE.com. That's where you can also go to MOLIAE.com/podcast and get my schedule of when I release my next episodes and when I'm going to be on summer break and when, it gives you all the info. So I'm not finna hold up any more time. I appreciate you. And do check out my music. When you buy from me at MOLIAE.com or MOLIAE World or MOLIAE Beauty, you help me as an independent creator to continue these. This is a long journey. And I covered everything and invested in all of this with my heart and everything. And so when you purchase directly from me, I can be able to put that back not only in my projects, but also hire other people of the DTC movement. So we're able to continue to expand. It's a collective of a family that wants to give and to receive. That's what pretty much teachings of our ancestors. So let's see if we can do that. All right. I'll talk to you in the next one.
We grow and learn to be in the love that we share.
Real King
Each road to remember. I see you. We share. See me. Hey, you. Mitsrayim. See me. Oh, who am I? Who am I? Here we are. Here we are. In His name, I remember. No shame, no game, but reign of happiness. Mitsrayim, blessed are the wings of glory. I see you, victory about.
Don't you remember? Don't you remember?
We share with love. Here we are. Oh, in the love that we share, we grow and learn to be whole of positive vibes that set us apart.
Remember.
I see you. You see
Don't
me.
you remember?
You see me. Hey. Who am I? Who am I?
Don't you remember?
Am I?
Don't you remember?
Love.
Don't you remember?
Don't you remember?